She recently organized Museum Starter Kit, opened with care, celebrating the 45th anniversary of El Museo, and La Biennial 2013, El Museo's Biennial of Emerging Artists, as well as the permanent collection exhibition for 2013-2014. She's a former curator of the Jersey City Museum. She's also on the adjunct faculty of the art department at the City College of New York. Born in Santiago, Chile, she received degrees in art history from the University of Maryland, Tulane University, and the Graduate Center of the City of New York. Her curatorial research work focuses on contemporary art of the Americas, and she's the co-curator along with Amelia. I was getting that note. There, last good story. The first room of work, and just to sort of point out some quotes from people about Antonio's and Juan's work together. Bill Cunningham, the really famed fashion photographer, said, "Together they reinvented fashion illustration with irrepressible energy, innovation, and splendor, elevating fashion art to a prominence and influence it had never known. Antonio drew the unthinkable and showed real people set in their fantasies." And Paloma Picasso said, "Antonio was without a doubt the person who, without being a fashion designer, had the biggest influence on fashion. His magic will never die." So Paul, can you speak to their sort of collaborative relationship? There's some photos of them together in their studio on the wall back here. How did they work and make work together for so long?
They were, from the very beginning at FIT, before Antonio was actually plucked by Women's Wear Daily to work there, they were already starting to collaborate then, and they left school together, and Juan was basically Antonio's art director. So they would, if they got an assignment, they would talk about it for a long time, and then they would come up with an idea that would be centered around the garment that they were going to illustrate, basically. And usually it referred to art history. They brought it back to art history rather than put it in in the beginning it was a fashion context, but then soon it became much more important to contextualize the drawing through art history, like in the 60s when this all happened. After the traditional, maybe fashion-looking illustrations, they started to quote, sample pop art or pop art or all different art movements. And so this continued throughout the 70s. It just got more and more elaborate, and each time they would come up with a different theme for their drawings, they would act on it and realize a whole sequence of drawings that would be about that theme. So you can see, even in these drawings here, for instance, this is from the 80s, but they were really into classical Greek, sort of referencing classical Greek sculpture. And Antonio was very interested in fragments. In his shoe drawings and in his drawings of the human body, he would always fragment them. And so this is sort of many different studies of that. And then finally, this is a poster that was done for Versace, and the realization of that particular exploration.
Lucia, can you tell us a little bit more about their process of creation? I think this is a good wall for that.
Yeah, actually we have two really good things that we always use to illustrate how like an equal partnership. But one is the amount, the work ethic. Paul always talked about how they would work constantly, late into the night, doing projects, and this is a good example how to come up with one poster, or in the end it was 4 poster designs, many drawings are done in the service of that. So you see here the model who's fully clothed, paired with a fractured male body where he's incomplete. In some cases he's just a bust, sometimes he's missing an arm or a leg, or he's fractured through the middle of the body. And it's this interest in the history of art, and you see Greek and Roman sculpture, they're always missing body parts because of the tensile strength of the stone can't outlast the time period that they're from, so they're always partial and fractured. And it's interesting to see him replicating this idea in these drawings. two black and white photographs on this wall that were taken by Juan Ramos, and they're taken in the fashion district, but instead of fancy photographs of models and clothing, it's the people who work in the fashion district. It's the men loading and unloading the trucks and moving racks of clothing, and maybe they're taking a little cigarette break in between. And this became the background to a series of drawings that were used in the New York Times fashion magazine, which at the very end of this vitrine right here, where you see Juan's photograph in the background, and over the top of that is a drawing by Antonio of the female model in the clothing. So you see how it's really an equal partnership with Juan's idea about these figures in the fashion world that we don't see because they're the invisible ones, and he's bringing them here directly into the work, into this illustration. And it was a full magazine really of these kinds of illustrations, and this is a technique that they use frequently, using photographs in the background and then collaging on top of the surface.
I think we should also mention at this point that he always used live models. So when you see this, there was actually a naked man and there was the woman wearing a garment, a Versace garment. And when he did it, when Juan took those pictures in black and white, Antonio had a live model wearing whatever the outfit was.
Paul was talking about how important the history of art was to both Juan and Antonio. This is a really nice parody right here also. These two collage drawings here show the influence of Fernand Léger, who was the post-Cubist French painter. If you look at Fernand Léger, you'll see exactly this kind of waviness of the hair, these backgrounds that look kind of hard to tell what's happening. It's a little bit cubist, a little bit flat, very modernist. So Antonio was looking at this influence directly and imitating it, but giving it a twist for the fashion illustration. And he did that. There's a great chart that Paul made up actually of the history of Juan and Antonio's work and showing which artists they were interested in and were using or adapting or quoting in their works.
I also think they're working on historically, but they're also working in the mode of their time. And here is a photo or a portrait of Antonio by Andy Warhol, and they're definitely influenced by pop art, which is sort of happening at the same moment that they're making fashion. I'm also really impressed by the range of mediums that they use. I think I wrote down just walking through the show, there's pencil drawings, charcoal, ink, gouache, paintings, collage, and photography. I think it's a span of the show, so they're really using a lot of mediums. I love this YSL drawing here where they're using the male body and more YSL and actually making each figure the letters YSL in each iteration. Jose, I've seen you do the schematic photos. Can you talk a little bit about photographies and the Juan's work?
Sure. There's a little wall over here of schematics, and there's some in the back wall over there. We were talking the other day about how he used photography almost as a conceptual artist and in a way that you wouldn't expect. You know, the Instamatic camera was produced for the first time in 1963, and it became the most widely available, inexpensive camera. Anyone could buy it, you could carry it with you. But Antonio and Juan used it as a tool in the studio. So it was, while it was snapshots, they were very careful about what they were photographing, how many photographs they would take, because in the end, the idea was to make a grid like this. Sometimes it would be just one, sometimes it would be 3, 6, 12, 9.
Most of the time 9, because they were actually books. There's a 12 volumes of photo albums, and they're almost all the photographs are in grids of 9, as you see here. This particular one is Karl Lagerfeld, and it's funny because just yesterday I got a letter from French Vogue, and he wants to use it in full page in French Vogue. I think he's doing the December issue or something. So I think he's inspired by the idea that Antonio is, having a show in New York, and I thought that was great.
What do you mean it's Karl Lagerfeld?
This is Karl.
Oh, it's him as the
Yeah,
model.
it's him. And he's the model
I've seen him.
holding the shower thing.
Wow.
Juan in his shower. Karl in his shower. Just like this one is Ace in his shower.
I encourage everyone to spend some time too with the vitrines and with the show when we're not all together.
Antonio did a series of drawings based on these Karl Lagerfeld designs of his so-called musical dresses. And on the other side of this wall, there's 4 really fantastic works by Antonio. Drawings of a saxophone jacket and an electric guitar dress and this beautiful violin dress. And it shows a lot of the influence of the Harlem Renaissance and jazz clubs of the 1920s and 30s. So this is one of the wonderful things about him as an artist, and about both of them as artists, is their imagination and the way they incorporated that history into a very contemporary feel. So take a quick look and then we'll pass through this.
So back here we have some photos of, again, Antonio and Juan in their studio. And you described that process in the wall label as low tech. Can you just talk a little bit more about what you mean by that? I think it's a compliment.
No, I feel like a lot of what they were able to do had this DIY spirit that was very much the spirit of the 60s and 70s. And so you see when they're working here, if they want a glamorous shot with a model with ribbons tied to her hair, and the ribbons are, you see them like glamorously exuding from the model's hair, and they're outside of the picture frame. Someone on the other end has to be holding those ribbons to make it look fabulous, right? Or, for example, this shoe right here, this amazing shoe that relates to the shoes over here that, were made so that they could have this particular storyline. And what you see here is two different kinds of photographic processes plus drawing all around a single, have this holistic way, a holistic approach to work where they would use different medium for different purposes. Sometimes Antonio would take a Polaroid because he wanted to know right away what something might look like for a campaign that he was working on. And so I think you see here the amount of work that goes into a single photograph and everyone that's involved making it happen.
So this whole section sort of shows Antonio and Juan's engagement with models, but primarily models of color, which feels like a really important aspect to what they were doing as a collaborative team, both then and I think also now. It feels very forward-thinking as we look at fashion as it tries to somewhat diversify these days. I think Antonio and Juan were very instrumental as forebearers in that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think because Antonio did a book called Girl, which sounds a little politically correct at the time. So when he did the book, he also did this one here, which was Blooming Dale, so clothing is very important. And we use all the girls during the book. So you have, for instance, down here, you've got Jessica Lange, here's Tina Chow, Athleisure, Jerry Hall, Sayoko, Rita Talone, and Tara Shannon.
And Grace Jones at one.
Oh, and Grace, where is she? Yeah, Grace. There's actually more than were in the Antonio's Girls book. Took artistic liberty. Or else he had a lot of outfits to illustrate. So.
Was there a casting process? How does it?
No, it was totally revolving. I think it was actually used because Fiorucci did a party for the book launch, so they used this drawing as well. I can hold it. Yeah, right here.
Rocio, can you tell us a little bit about, again, there's the instamatics, there's the drawings, there's the commissions. Do you have a sense of the context that they were working? Was it commissions for? Was it free form as artists making work that they were interested in? Where did it land?
I think it was a little bit of both. I mean, you can see that in the exhibition. There were a lot of commissions, so they did a lot of work that was commissioned by fashion houses or by publications. But there were also many chances to do artwork.
Yeah.
Right? And
This is a great example right here as well, because you've got the commission right here for Bloomingdale. So all these drawings are Antonio's own drawings of dancers from Louis Falco Dance Company, or this is Iman, but I think he might have done this for Vogue. But the other drawings are completely studies he did for himself. That one the large one over there is Lisa Lyons, who was Robert Mapplethorpe's model, and they shared her as a model for a couple years. So you'll see quite a few drawings of her.
I think this wall in general really illustrates kind of the breadth of approaches that they would take to different things. And actually, one of my favorite on this wall is a little grid of instamatics that has Jerry Hall and who's the other model called? Is that,
Oh, she's not a model. It was Alvinia Bridges.
oh, man.
Yeah, she's
This is a great set of instamatic photographs that I think underscores how brilliant they were when they thought, conceptually it's not about fashion at all. It's almost like a surreal story that's being told here. There's two women, they're in a phone booth, suddenly someone half dressed. We don't really know what's going on, but it's great to see this phone booth as like the framework that he's using physically and conceptually of the work, and also how the instamatics have this cartoon or comic-like quality, also where it's a narrative sequence that he's telling through these little snapshots that he's taking.
Was he friends with all of these models, or was Grace coming over to model and then hang out later?
intimate friends with all of them.
And how that was the relationship to the work now? I know you're having an event called Antonio's Friends, but are they all still?
Oh, friends of Antonio, yeah. Well, the big models like Jerry Hall and Grace Jones have gone on to, other things. Oh, sorry, have gone on to do other things, but there will be quite a few models from different eras in this Friends of Antonio event that we're doing. So yeah, he was very close to all his models. And in fact, we're doing a movie, and it's just about wrapped up. It's a documentary where we interviewed some of these women, including Jessica and Pat Cleveland, and they all spoke about Antonio. You feel, and you will see if you watch the movie, you will see how intimate their relationship really was. It's kind of amazing. I didn't even know.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the diary? What's your name figures and all that?
Yeah. these were done, it was funny.
How he was thinking both about working with a live form, fashion, and its relationship to the body, abstracting the body into making it into a high-heeled form. Rosia, do you have any favorite shoes on this wall?
Well, I love the sneaker stiletto. For me, we were just talking about this the other day too, the sneaker wedge that everyone is still wearing that's from about 2 years ago. Antonio precedes this idea of the sneaker high heel by decades, literally. And again, making this shoe that's impossible to wear but beautiful to look at, it becomes a sculpture. And that seems to be like the direction he was heading, right?
Yeah. I think it's funny because, like I was saying the other day also, some people in today's world find the shoes a little offensive because, shoes today, especially high heels, are seen as a trap. So there was one of the educators in particular who found that she was having a hard time how she was going to explain that to her students. So we tried to say, well, it was a different time and so on, and it was. And I think in art, you can't really.
And if you think about them as
Censor.
sculptures instead of wearable actual shoes that you're going to wear, they're works of art as opposed to something you're actually going to put on your foot.
Right.
In one of the lectures that Antonio gave at FIT, he talked about the fact that they were working on a book about shoes that they wanted to get published in time for the holidays, and the book never happened.
So I do just want to note that typically in the show there's great music playing in this moment. We turned it off because we wanted you to be able to hear us, but I think we'll turn it on at the end, and it's the music from both the breakdancing performance that's happening in the back of the video room. But Rocio, you call this sort of the most important room in the show almost, and can you just tell us a little bit more about why you think that?
Yeah, I think this gallery is really important for a few reasons. I was so thrilled I'm so happy that FIT had kept copies of Antonio's lecture that he gave 3 times when he and Juan went back to lecture for the students. And it would consist of a live drawing demonstration and then Q&A. But in 2 of those lectures, he also brought breakdancers with him. One year he brought the group of boys, and the next year he brought the group of girls with him. And he introduced it by saying, "This is deeply influential in my work." And so for me, it was an important symbolic and real gesture of showing the importance of a cultural phenomenon that is born in the South Bronx, in the deeply Puerto Rican community, people that have been living there since the 1950s and 60s, and their aesthetic expression that was deeply influential to Antonio and his work. And you can see it reflected in this entire gallery. And my favorite way to find it is sort of hidden or coded in some of the ads that he did for Missoni. For example, on this wall, you see all the models are wearing their Missoni sweaters, but then you see what they're doing with their hands. They're doing these popping moves of breakdance with their legs also. And even here in the what he called the urban warriors, the watercolors that are on the left-hand side there, there's about a dozen of these paintings in the archive, so this is really only half of them, but you see the signs and codes for urban fashion that he's incorporated into these watercolors. And then he's had these really cool little ethnographic details, like you went to Museum of Natural History and looked at, feathered headdresses or feathered objects of war. There's sabers, there's a little spear here and there. And so he's adding all of these layers into something that is really, these were done for, I think, Italian men's clothes.
Right.
And then, right?
And these two, and also I wanted to mention that this is one of the models.
Which one?
Old series actually.
Oh, you were both, right? Yeah.
Nice. What's your name?
Feliciano.
Lisa. And then Rosie, I think it's great that you position the photographs of some of the breakdancers in the middle there. Can you just talk a little bit more about what those photos are?
So these kids from the Rocksteady crew became friends of Antonio. They appear in the photographs that were taken by the studio photographer Matthew Wilson. And then also in drawings that Antonio did of each of them, that you see over here on this blue wall, and in some cases they even signed their own portrait with their graffiti tag. So he's bringing this cultural influence into the work, but he's really embracing it genuinely, making his own portraits of these young men who were his friends. The Rocksteady crew was founded in the early 70s in the South Bronx, and so by the late 70s, early 80s, breakdancing is already like old hat in the South Bronx, but in Manhattan, it's still exciting, and especially in Union Square, where you might encounter people who never go to the South Bronx and never seen it before, and that's how I think they became friends. They spent time in the studio. He even asked them to do a backdrop for his photographs, so you can see examples of it in the Polaroids of this vitrine, where the models would stand in front of this graffiti backdrop that the Rocksteady crew had painted for Antonio and Juan.
And that's what we did in our version of the backdrop. In this room, you'll see what Louise playing. We have two artists today to do.
Yeah, and then maybe the other reason I think that this gallery is really important is you have evidence and action at the same time, showing Antonio doing this live action portrait that he would do at FIT. He would do the first one on one side of the stage so that the students on one side of the theater could see it, and then he would go do it on the other side of the stage so the other students could see it. And I'm so glad that this is still in the archives. You can see him doing the drawing against the
That's sort of funny hearing us in that way, just like producing large scale very fast. I do want to point to these photos back here, which I quite like. There's sort of like a homosocial dynamic going on, and Antonio did this commission or did this project with sort of biker boys, I would say. Jack Kerouac on the road moment. Can you talk Comic Villain-esque in a way? But I know that they were too racy.
Yeah, it's very hard to 1973, so people were not ready for the GQ commission basically sportswear. But when they saw the drawings, at the time it was too violent and too homoerotic. So they were printed later on for decades. And they wrote television.
How about Rosie, you had said at the beginning that a lot of the narrative around Antonio's work was focused on fashion and the work around women. This is mostly a gallery of male models, and I'm also curious about that in and of itself, and also
Puerto Rican issues. So yes, they returned then, and they researched different people who lived there. And if you get the brochure from the show, the catalog, you'll see the people that they interviewed and the photographs that they took while they were there. But it was kind of they were New Yorkers, they were not Puerto Ricans, so I don't think they felt a sense of, they had relatives there, but they didn't feel a sense of, community there as much as New York.
for a lot of artists who are either born and raised here, or like if they're just born on the island and mostly raised here. It was
Yeah, they came very early, very young.
So how about the video that's playing here? And both, you sort of spoke to, we talked before about the educational aspect of Juan and Antonio's work.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of lectures and those.
There's a lot of lectures, especially in art schools, and so there's lots of, and the archive has a lot of really great footage of them giving talks at different kinds of art schools. And so these ones at FIT were really useful for me to hear directly from Antonio and Juan how they worked and what they thought. And so what you see in that room is 3 different excerpts. 2 of them are the break dancers from 2 of the FIT talks, and the other is a short 6-minute clip that you can also watch on YouTube from a film from 1983 called Portfolio. And it was a feature-length film about the fashion industry. It was sort of a drama, but there were real people in the film. Andy Warhol shows up, and it shows this amazing, beautiful, chaotic moment in Antonio's studio where he's drawing, the model's there, the breakdancers are dancing, people are watching, Andy's hanging out.
Well, the theme of the movie is that the girl from Long Island comes to the big city and she wants to be a model. So Antonia looks at her book and says, these aren't very good, the pictures, you have to go see more people. And so she joins a modeling agency and she's sent to different photographers, and each segment of the movie is a different person she visits, and Antonia is one of them. And I think it's like 15 minutes long, the actual segments. And then she brings what is
Oh, right, of course.
She became a very famous model in the 80s.
I give credit to our former director, who's now the director of the Museum of Arts and Design, who came up with this idea based on, Amelia and I came and talked to him about everything we had seen. We talked about the futurism that we saw in the drawings. We talked about the Afrofuturism that we saw in the music, and then subsequently in the drawings. And so future funk fashion is, in a nutshell, what he was interested in. Funk music was important, futurism was important, and obviously fashion was was the world in which he lived. And that's how you see this. So these 2 walls address this issue of futurism and Afrofuturism specifically. So there's a lot of kind of invented narratives about these futuristic people. And this is a theme that occurs beginning in the early 60s. This figure right here is from 62 or 63 maybe, and it was done for the New York Times fashion.
the Space People.
The Space People series. If you go online, you'll see even more where they've got these clear plastic helmets on.
Right.
And so as early as 62 and 63, he was interested in this futuristic utopian world. And then, of course, I think it's almost impossible to overstate the incredible influence of a film like Star Wars on all artists working at the time. And so you see his fembot version of C-3PO here in the lower right corner. And then again, another fantastic image of Lisa Lyon as this amazing futuristic warrior woman. We're going into this future world where we might need to be armed in different ways. And then as you move across, to this wall, you see Grace Jones as this futuristic underwater queen of an empire. She's got this sharp headdress and this fantastic coral necklace that she's wearing. And so these kinds of images that we saw over and over again in his work, and the album collection that's on the wall over here, I think illustrates that they were both interested in funk as an aesthetic expression, and thinking about futurism, and specifically a futurism where people of color in the future would find that utopia is what's present in some of the drawings here too.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say this. The drawings that are more, I don't want to say commercial, but they're more finished. Like, for instance, this one and the one there with the woman who's fractured, her face is fractured, and then this gold and silver one over here are really more directly related to Italian futurism per se, because those were the books that were on the table that they were looking at when they did these particular drawings. And then, of course, the other stuff is more subtle, but yeah, definitely there.
I love the world of Andy Jones.